Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. It's a Monday night in Pittsburgh. Bob Pompeani with you till 11 o'clock at 412-575-2600. You know the drill. Call us or tweet us at KDPomp at the Pony Express. Andrew Fillipponi up at 93.7 The Fan. The day after the Steelers lose one in Philadelphia, a game that actually looked like potentially was going to be tied, or at least a very close game, until Naji Harris fumbled the pitch, and then all of a sudden everything changed. They marched 13 plays, and then the controversial decision about 4th and 7, what to do. They elect to punt, to pin him deep, but they couldn't stop him. I've never seen a 21-play, 88-yard drive to end the game, but that's the way it was in Philly. I think the longer that game went on, Andrew, you saw the physical domination of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, you say that, Bob, but the Eagles really didn't run the ball well. I mean, Saquon Barkley, even when he was in there, only averaged 3.4 yards per carry. I thought the bigger story of the game was the fact that the Eagles, who have been one of the worst passing offenses in the entire NFL, had a field day against the Steelers' secondary. And, yeah, there were periods of time where T.J. Watt got pressure late in the first half, but really Jalen Hurts picked him apart, and that was the big question with the Eagles. Steelers liked their secondary with Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson before he got hurt, and I think the absence of Deshaun Elliott was felt. I mean, I think Elliott's a nice player. I did not think that subtracting him from the secondary was going to result in Jalen Hurts having his best passing day of the season and two guys going over 100 yards. If you told me before the game that Saquon Barkley was going to average 3.6 yards per carry and the Steelers were going to hold him under 70 yards, Bob, I would have expected the Steelers were either going to win the game or lose a very close game. Instead, they got blown out.
Yeah, but if I had told you the time of possession would be 40-20, you would have thought the opposite. Yeah, they went through the air. They absolutely did.
But they did it through the air, exactly. I mean, I did not see that coming.
Maybe they should have, because you knew what was happening in that locker room, the reports of little strife between Brown and Hurts, and maybe they, we've seen it here time and time again. When someone is upset, whether it's Hines, Ward, A.B., all of a sudden the first 3 plays of the game go to those guys. Perhaps they were doing the same kind of thing. Okay, we're going to show you. We're going to throw the ball. I thought maybe the Steelers were keying so much on Barkley, and you got to do that because he's that electrifying. But at the same time, they decided we're going to go down the air and show people they can do it that way as well. So I'll say this: the Philadelphia Eagles look like a very good team, and given the way the Detroit Lions have been hampered with injury, we saw Montgomery now joins 2 others out for the season. For them, and that that team had it all, and all of some things are falling apart. But I think that Philadelphia can emerge from the NFC the way they're playing.
Sure they can, absolutely. We saw Jalen Hurts take him to his Super Bowl before. Their defense is so much better than last year when it was 26th in the NFL. And look, they did a great job against the Steelers, but a lot of it was Steelers beating Steelers and the refs beating the Steelers in that game. Just horrendous calls. I don't want to make it sound like a hometown bias, but just facts here. No one got thrown out of the game for throwing punches. The Steelers got penalized on that play. Jalen Carter knocking out Connor Hayward. They got that call wrong. Should have been the Steelers' first down. Monty Adams got pushed into the long snapper, and the Steelers got flagged 15 for it. So just a horrible game. Gene Steratore, I was shocked. We needed him on Sunday because we got the Fox crew instead. And I would have loved to have heard Gene rip this officiating crew a new one. So we were deprived of that. Dean Blandino did not do a very good job with that, as a matter of fact. But, Bob, this offense without George Pickens should be rubbing his hamstring, and if he can bend, if he's flexible enough, he should be kissing that injured hamstring right now, because that hamstring is making him hundreds of millions of dollars. That is not an exaggeration. It proves how irreplaceable he is to the Steelers. Guys can't get open, and this system is not imaginative enough outside of a flea flicker to get guys the ball against a really good defense, one of the best in the NFL, the number 1 passing defense in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, they're really good. They're 2 young guys, Mitchell and DeJean, really good at what they do.
And Mitchell should have been thrown out of the game, and Slay should have been thrown out of the game, as a matter of fact.
I thought Slay was clearly punching, but regardless of that, I mean, they're in the situation they're in. They lost the game, and so now it comes down to the Ravens. Real quickly, we have 30 seconds in this game. Baltimore's a 6.5-point favorite, and I understand why, given the injury situation. We found out today, though, that Mike Tomlin said he's optimistic, and normally he does not use that word optimistic about an injury for a game coming up if he doesn't feel optimistic. And I think TJ Watt will likely play, but I still think some of these other guys are going to be out of there. And I wonder what they can do schematically to free up some of these wide receivers against a Baltimore defense that I think is getting better and better and better.
It is, and Mike Tomlin made Dean Pease out to be Dick LeBeau today when talking about the effect that he's had on them.
He's had an effect on him.
No, it's true. It's just crazy to hear a guy put in that kind of rarefied air by Tomlin. Look, Bob, it's a great point by you. I mean, I think right now teams are just loading up to stop the run, and Naji Harris was ineffective going up against those big loaded fronts of the Ravens. I think they're in deep trouble without Pickens. I'm not sure they win another game. Maybe Cincinnati, because anybody could score on their defense. Even if Patrick Mahomes doesn't play on Christmas, I'm not sure how the Steelers score points against that really good Kansas City defense that forced 6 turnovers on Sunday unless they get their own turnovers in the game. It's really a dreadful situation without that guy.
Another thing to score after you get the turnover, and they failed yesterday, just 3 points on 2 of those. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night is this one, and it's an interesting story development up there at State College. Drew Aller has said he's coming back, which shortly thereafter was followed by a social media post from Bo Prebola, who said he's the backup and a very talented kid, that he's with a heavy heart announcing he's moving on. And this is the way it is right now. These two things are intersecting at the same time, Andrew. You've got this playoff, first time ever. I'm very anxious to see how it plays out, even though I'd have a different idea about seeding some of these teams in the future. But that, along with the transfer portal, a lot of these guys have got to make decisions about that if they're going to move forward, because there's a lot of money at stake. But your thoughts about this? They're going to lose their backup quarterback, and if Aller gets hurt, then what?
Yeah, I agree with you. And James Franklin basically said college football's broken today. It's in a very bad place. He's very concerned about where the sport is headed, and the sport needs a commissioner. I think all those things are true. I think that this is a horrible time to do the transfer portal when the season is still going on. It'd be like Justin Fields electing out of his contract with the Steelers right now to try to latch on somewhere as the starter with just a few games left before the playoffs start. So that's not right. However, Bob, I don't like the state of this team going into a game in a few days when the coach is making these comments and they're upset with the state of college football. As Mike Tomlin needs to say, singularly focused on things. Penn State does not seem like that team right now, and they're a big favorite against SMU, but you better believe between Jennings, the quarterback, and Daniels, the running back, and Smith, too, a really nice player, they can go in there and win this game. So Penn State better quit complaining about the state of college football, even though they're right, and concentrate on SMU, because if they don't, they're going to get upset on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility for that. I think Boise State is more likely a better matchup for Penn State, but I think Penn State should be able to win. They're just bigger. I know SMU's fast, but there's a lot of pressure on Penn State as well. Let's get to the lines at 412-575-2600. Our number one cock ring, Go One Better caller of the night. We'll go to Don in Ritchieville. Hey, Don, how are you?
Ritchieville, is Walsh there?
Yeah, well, they have the best hair in town. I know that, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Bob, I got a question before you see what you think about it. It just seems to me like every time when Pittsburgh's on offense, they got to run the ball the first 2 downs, and then they're always in third down situation almost every series.
Yeah, it's pretty predictable that way, and I'd like to see a little. I mean, you sit up there and you think to yourself, okay, we're not going to see this right off the bat, but you do. And if you do gain big yards, okay, you sit up third, and that's the problem in this game yesterday also. They had too many long, second and long, third and long situations, and that's what I mean. You got to do something different here, especially with the fact that if George Pickens does not play, and even though we don't know that for sure right now, speculation is he probably won't. How do you free up some of these guys? When does Mike Williams become more of a big-time contributor to this offense? When does, more of Pat Freiermuth being targeted? Not just 4 times a game or 5 or 3 or whatever. I'm talking about big-time target. He's a guy who has strong hands. He showed it yesterday, Andrew.
Did Tomlin get asked about Mike Williams today, Bob? You were on that show.
Yeah, no.
Did he get a question?
I don't think he did.
Well, why? No. I mean, I love those guys that cover the Steelers, but I get it. You feel like you're beating a dead horse, but you got to keep asking about it, because Mike said before this game, basically, look out, here comes a breakout Mike Williams performance, and it didn't happen. So I'd like to get to the bottom of that. The other thing I'd like to get to the bottom of with Mike is He said Mike Sullivan, their old OC, is in charge of yards after the catch. He said Grady Brown, their secondary coach, is in charge of turnover culture. Bob, who's in charge of the clock? Mike Tomlin said after the game on Sunday that there was information that got in the way of him calling a timeout at the end of the first half, and that's why 25 seconds went off the clock. I think it's time to designate somebody to help him with that if he gets distracted by something else that prevents him from managing the clock correctly.
Yeah, I thought they had someone in place for that, and you're right. The time did keep ticking away, and I thought that was a wasted opportunity there at the end of that first half. But whatever the case may be, it happens here. It happens in a lot of different places. I think we saw it with Dan Campbell yesterday. If you watch that game, there were some egregious things going on with the clock in there, too. So,
how about 2nd and 20 versus 1st and 30? This is not a second guess, but I would have accepted that penalty.
Yeah, I would have,
no doubt.
1st and 30 makes it very interesting to see what they would do after that. Because even if they do go underneath, all of a sudden it could be 2nd and more than that, and you gain the down. All right, let's go to Mike in Evans City. What's up, Mike? How are you?
Bob, Tony. Hey, bottom line is they're in the tournament. I mean, a lot of things can happen over the next few weeks. I mean, they're in. The worst case, there's worse things than them even being in the wild card. They could maybe be looking at Houston in the first round. That would set up probably a Baltimore Buffalo matchup, and we're going to see KC. So we could potentially, get past Houston, go to KC. I'm setting a path up for them, basically. Baltimore owns Buffalo. So if we could get past KC, we could be looking at Baltimore in the championship.
Yeah, but listen, I don't know what you're suggesting. To me, they still want to win a division. It makes it a lot easier. If you should win Saturday, you can then determine over the next 2 weeks how you utilize guys. If guys need rest, serve that as your bye week. If they lose this game and invite Baltimore back in, all of a sudden now you're looking at a possibility of dropping out of a division title and moving down. And the last thing I would want to see them do is play on the road at a team I don't know that they're going to be able to deal with. Andrew, so this is a big game for me, and I would approach it as such.
Look, it's obviously fluid. You take into account what teams have done recently. I'd like to play the Chargers right now at home, given the way that team looks. Their defense just gave up 40. Oh, true. That could be it. That's right, and that would be a Russell Wilson revenge game. But I'd rather play that game at home and force Bo Nix as a rookie to go on the road in the playoffs. You know, Houston plays in a very weak division, and I think they've largely underachieved this year. But they've had some great defensive performances. They picked off Jared Goff 5 times. They held the Bills to 20 points in a game in Houston that they won. And they just beat Miami yesterday because they picked off Tua 3 times. So, and based on the way the game went in Houston last year, with that play caller, Bobby Slowick, I don't know if I'd be in a hurry right now to go down to Houston and look at that as a winning consolation prize.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're very opportunistic with that defense, and I think Stroud largely has not been as good as last year, but he set the bar pretty high also. Sam in Jefferson is up next right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Hey, Sam.
How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Okay, I listened to that press conference today, and I can't understand. Why are sports media in this town so afraid of Tomlin? Why won't they ask him what was the status of Naji Harris after a fumble? Why is Cordell Patterson running the ball?
Wait a minute. Well, I agree with Cordell Patterson. When you say Naji Harris, what are you talking about? The status? They only ran the ball after that. I know, but
he never came back in the game.
Guess what? They never had the ball. He fumbled. They went 13 plays. They got it back, and then they punted, and they never got the ball back. So I don't know if you can make that as a judgment. Andrew, would you do that?
Well, Naji Harris didn't play again because he fumbled.
Yeah, but there weren't enough opportunities, though, were there? I mean, they ran a total of 11 plays in an entire second half.
No, but they got the ball back again after that fumble. That's when he decided to punt on 4th and 7. The status of Naji Harris is that guys go in the doghouse when they fumble the ball under Mike Tomlin. That's just the way it is. I don't think it'll carry over into the Baltimore game, but that is how it works. I think, look, Naji Harris has had a pretty solid Steelers career in that he goes for 1,000 yards every year. But it's really because of durability and quantity of touches. It's not because he's an explosive player. He had those 3 100-yard games, and that was probably the pinnacle of his career here. But overall, Bob, I think it's time now for a clean break from him. They got to get somebody to go in and complement Jaylen Warren, who is more of a physical back who can also break big runs.
Right.
And that's what they need here for this offense next year. You don't need to use a first-round pick to find a guy like that.
Oh, they're available a lot of different spots, as we've seen. Let's go real quick to Chuck in Uniontown before we take a break. Hello, Chuck. How are you tonight?
Hey, Chuck.
Yeah. Fine, thank you. Merry Christmas to you.
You too.
On these proposed changes in baseball, I mean, I'd like to take that maladjusted psychopathic idiot who wants his golden at bat role and put him and Rob Manfred and Bob Nutting on a one-way slow boat to China, never to be heard from again.
Merry Christmas, Chuck. He's sending them off. Yeah, some of that, I mean, that was just thrown out there. I don't think it really had a legitimate chance. But as far as Nutting is concerned, they do have a legitimate chance to improve quickly if they want to. And, Andrew, that's going to be the we talk about this no matter what. Every single year we do the same thing.
Well, Kyle Tucker's on his way to Chicago.
That's
Let's see
the
if
guy.
he is.
I would have loved to. People are going to laugh at me and say, well, he'll never sign here. Why not? Give him the kind of money. He has a pitching staff here that maybe could be. And if right field is where he plays, make an effort at least.
I'm just saying you could have rented him for 1 year. You rent guys at the trade deadline every year. You could have made an offer to them, and that would have done exactly what you just said. It would have solved your problem. In fact, it probably would have made you one of the favorites to win the division.
Right.
Had you made a move like that, but they don't want to make those kind of moves, Bob. We'll see what they do. I'm guessing it's not much.
They don't want to make it because they want, if they're going to give up what they're going to give up, they want to sign him long term. And they're probably not going to do that, which is, again, their problem.
No, they're not.
They got to figure it. Pony, real quick, we got the Final Four of volleyball. Pitt and Penn State both in there. They could be on a collision course in the national final. Wouldn't that be interesting?
It would, but Louisville is playing home games, and Nebraska is basically the best program in the country. So it is a loaded Final Four. I wish Pitt volleyball the best, Bob.
Yeah, I don't think that's where Louisville plays its games, though. I think it's in Louisville. They have that set up, but I don't think it's the same exact. I don't think they play always at the Yum Center. They may play some, whatever.
The Yum Center.
Yeah, isn't that what it's called? KFC Yum Center?
I think so.
Okay, Yum. We're done.
It's just funny to hear you say
Good
it.
night. We'll see you, Andrew, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 10:35.
See you, Bob.